Israel and Iran have exchanged strikes. Since Friday, 370 ballistic missiles have been launched at Israel. Last night, they landed in the suburbs of Tel Aviv and Haifa. In 4 days, 24 people have died in Israel. More than 300 have been injured. Among the dead are also 5 Ukrainians. That's 2 adults and 3 children. They lived in the city of Bat Yam. Calling Israel an aggressor state, Iran refuses any negotiations as long as Israel's strikes continue. The latter claims to control the airspace over the western part of Iran. It states that its goal is the destruction of Iran's entire nuclear program. Israel also claims that it controls the airspace over this part of Iran, but has suffered another massive attack. 40,000 foreigners are temporarily stranded in the country due to the closed airspace. The United States is sending new weapons to the region. TSN correspondent Yana Slice-Archuk reports on the consequences of this turbulent night. Next.
A lesson from Israel's Iron Dome, the air defense system that for years has been called the best in the world. It's impossible to defend against every missile, even in a territory much smaller than Ukraine and with resources far greater than Ukraine's. During the latest attack by Iran, Tel Aviv and its suburbs, as well as Haifa, were hit. Reports say there are 8 dead and nearly 300 injured. A power plant is on fire in Haifa. And this is just a day after Iran launched dozens of ballistic missiles at Israel, which claimed 10 lives. At that time, 200 Israelis were hospitalized. What saves many, though not everyone, are the shelters built into most Israeli apartments. Here, shelters have been planned since the design stage for a long time already.
When we opened the door to the shelter, we were shocked. The entire apartment was destroyed. There was almost nothing left. Within just a few minutes, military rescuers were here. They went from apartment to apartment, asking if everyone was okay.
But it's already known that 2 of the victims in Petah Tikva, a suburb of Tel Aviv, were actually in the shelter. It doesn't save you from a direct hit. Tel Aviv's international airport remains closed. The American embassy reported that although none of the staff were injured, everyone felt the shockwave from the rocket that fell nearby. Israel's Ministry of Defense is warning Iran will pay for this. The Prime Minister of Israel continues to emphasize that his country is fighting in accordance with international law, unlike Iran.
Our amazing pilots are over Tehran. Tehran is on fire, but we don't target civilians. We ask them to evacuate. And they are evacuating. But you don't hear about it, because the Iranian government hides everything. But it's happening. Meanwhile, they are bombing our civilian population. In Tamra, Tel Aviv, Rishon LeZion, Rehovot, everywhere.
Netanyahu thanks Trump for his help and states that Israel's military goal is to destroy Iran's nuclear program. This is just as difficult to do as destroying the Palestinian terrorist group Hamas in the Gaza Strip. But it noticeably diverts the world's attention from recent events. From the latest statements by the American president before the G7 summit, one thing is clear. Washington does not control the situation.
I hope some kind of deal is being made. I think now is the time for a deal. We'll see what happens, but sometimes you still have to fight. But we'll see what happens next. There's a good chance for a deal.
Russia, with which Israel maintains demonstratively neutral relations, has called on its citizens to leave the country immediately. And with Iran, Russia has signed a strategic partnership agreement, which, however, does not obligate them to provide military assistance. It only forbids helping the enemy's country. Any crisis in the Middle East leads to rising oil prices, so it's beneficial for Russia both in that sense and by diverting global attention from the Russo-Ukrainian war. According to unconfirmed reports, several high-ranking Iranian officials have evacuated to Russia. Iran calls Israel an aggressor state.
We are defending ourselves in accordance with the UN Charter, because there is no doubt that an act of aggression was committed against Iranian territory.
We have the right to self-defense.
No negotiations as long as Israel continues to carry out strikes. This is Iran's stated position. Israel does not intend to stop for now. Reports include, in particular, a destroyed refueling plane in the east of the country, a strike on Tehran airport, and a justice ministry being hit in the capital. Yana Slycharchuk, Anatoly Korab, TSN, 1+1 Marathon, United News.
The conflict between Israel and Iran is one of the key topics on the G7 agenda. The summit of G7 leaders is ongoing in Canada. The discussion of the situation in the Middle East has come to the forefront. The West is urging all sides to de-escalate and insists a larger war must not be allowed. The President of the European Commission placed the blame for the new wave of violence squarely on Iran, calling it, quote, the main source of regional instability. At the same time, von der Leyen referred to the IAEA's conclusion, which states that Iran is not fulfilling its obligations regarding the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. Emmanuel Macron spoke with the President of Iran. He called on Masoud Pezeshkian to resume negotiations for a diplomatic resolution as soon as possible. Macron believes that the real leverage to bring everyone back to the negotiating table lies with the United States, since Israel depends on American weapons. Rękoliski Jelida Zaklikav Donalda Trumpa Vikaristidi Svidj VPLYV, Ale Anizie Dopamaga Jumirat Vorsik Sizela, Napradklad, Volodymyra Putina. Macron reminded that Russia is itself waging war in Ukraine and does not respect the UN Charter, and therefore does not have sufficient authority.